Hey everybody, Dr. Phil here. This is going to be a video on ability in the wider context of organizational behavior. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. So let's talk a little bit about ability. So we think of the relatively stable capabilities people have to perform a particular range of different but related activities. This is in contrast to skills, which are more trainable and also improvable over time. This is a function of both genes and the environment. And this is the amount attributable to each source, which depends somewhat on the nature, of course, the nature of the ability. And this, of course, will vary by, from individual to departments through company. So what does it mean for an employee to be able? So three classifications of abilities. We have cognitive, we think about your brain, we have emotional, and we have physical. So ability refers to what people can do, and personality refers to what people are like. So, little difference there. So let's talk a little bit about cognitive ability. So we think of cognitive ability as capabilities related to the acquisition and application of knowledge in problem solving. It's relevant to most jobs and occupations, and different types of cognitive ability contribute to employee effectiveness. And some examples you can see here, verbal, quantitative, to do with numbers, reasoning, maybe critical thinking, spatial, perceptual, and then a sort of overall overarching general cognitive ability. With verbal ability, this refers to capabilities associated with understanding and expressing oral and written communication. Oral comprehension is the ability to understand spoken words and sentences. Written comprehension is the ability to understand written words and sentences. Oral expression refers to the ability to communicate ideas by speaking. Some people are more articulate, more erudite than others. And then written expression refers to the ability to communicate ideas in writing. Most important in jobs in which effectiveness depends on understanding and communicating ideas and information to others. So obviously, that's important in all companies, but there are certainly certain jobs in companies where that's going to be more, take on an increased importance. And then quantitative ability. This refers to two types of mathematical capabilities. A number facility refers to the capability to do simple math operations, such as adding, subtracting, etc. Mathematical reasoning refers to the ability to choose and apply formulas to solve problems that involve numbers. It's also important to jobs and occupations involving statistics, accounting, and engineering. Also important to lower level jobs such as cashiering. And then, of course, reasoning ability. We think of this as a diverse set of abilities associated with sensing and solving problems using insight, rules, and logic. Problem sensitivity is the ability to sense that there is a problem or one is likely to occur. Deductive reasoning refers to the use of general rules or hypotheses as a starting point to solve a problem. Inductive reasoning refers to the ability to generate a hypothesis and plausible solution from pieces of information. And of course, originality refers to the ability to develop clever, novel ways to solve problems. And it's worth noting that reasoning ability is crucial to diverse jobs, including, medicine, law, criminal justice, designing, writing, so on and so forth. What about spatial ability? So capabilities associated with visual and mental representation and manipulation of objects in space. So spatial orientation refers to a good understanding of where one is relative to other things in the environment. Visualization is the ability to imagine how separate things will look if they are put together in a particular way. So that would be both of those would be good traits for engineers, for example. People with these abilities can more easily find their way without a map, or often excel at fields such as interior design or fashion styling. And then perceptual ability. This refers to being able to perceive, understand, and recall patterns of information. Speed and flexibility of closure refers to being able to pick out a pattern of information quickly in the presence of distracting information. And some people are better at that than others. And then perceptual speed refers to being able to examine and compare numbers, letters, and objects quickly. Jobs requiring high perceptual ability include code breaking, proofreading, and sorting or categorizing things. And then again, this is sort of like the more overarching field, general cognitive ability. an explanation for the consistency in the levels of different cognitive abilities within a person. So, for example, people who have higher than average verbal abilities also tend to be higher than average on reasoning, quantitative, spatial, and perceptual abilities. Sometimes we refer to this as the G factor or simply just G. Um, Similar to the ability tested by IQ, intelligence quotient, all those types of tests. And a higher IQ is related to better health, economics, and indeed life satisfaction. So, what about emotional intelligence and emotional ability? We think of these as a set of abilities related to the understanding and use of emotions that affect social functioning. This influences the degree to which people tend to be effective in social situations, regardless of their level of cognitive abilities. With regard to self awareness, this is the appraisal and expression of emotions in oneself, and it includes the ability to understand the types of emotions being experienced, the willingness to acknowledge them, and the capability to express them naturally. Examples of low self awareness are people who might not admit to themselves or show others their anxiousness when starting a new job. Not expressing the emotion can increase stress, and behavior can be misinterpreted by others. And with regards to other awareness, the appraisal and recognition of emotions in others, certainly important. This refers to the ability of an individual to recognize and understand the emotions that other people are feeling. People high in this aspect are sensitive to others' feelings and can anticipate the emotions that people will experience in different situations. People low in this aspect do not effectively sense others' emotions and may act in a way that worsens a situation. And they may not mean to do that. It may be more, more inadvertent. And then emotion and emotional regulation. We can think of this as the ability to recover quickly from emotional experiences. This refers to both negative, of course, both negative and positive emotions. And a couple of examples: not holding on to a negative encounter with another driver during rush hour, and not allowing the good news of a pay raise to interfere with normal workday productivity. And then let's talk a little bit about use of emotions. This is the degree to which people can harness emotions and employ them to improve their chances of being successful in whatever they're seeking to do. When employees harness their positive emotions, they can produce solutions that are much more creative. So, for example, psyching oneself up to overcome a challenge is more helpful than giving in to self doubt. And I think we could all agree with that. But what about applying emotional intelligence? How can understanding emotional intelligence be useful to managers? Well, it can be used in staffing and training practices. Recruiters who are high in some aspects of emotional intelligence are generally more effective than those who score lower in the same areas. New hires selected on the basis of high emotional intelligence perform better and stay longer in cases such as the US Air Force and L'Oreal. Now, the dark side to this is that emotional intelligence may give individuals the gift of influencing others, which unfortunately can be abused when we think about things like gossiping, harassment, and even theft. And then assessing emotional intelligence. Tests that measure emotional intelligence, and there's a few different ones. One is SAT style assessments with questions having correct or incorrect answers. Emotional Quotient Inventory, EQI, asks 133 questions about behaviors and preferences. It may measure personality traits more than emotional abilities. And short assessments designed specifically to assess each of the four facets of emotional intelligence. All right, thanks for watching this quick video, and I will see you all in a future video.